Okay, so far, I feel like I've accidentally joined a Regency-era group chat. Because every chapter in this book seems like we're just talking about somebody else. Like, last chapter was basically everybody just analyzing Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy as if they were on a reality dating show. And at this point, Mr. Bingley seems universally loved, and Mr. Darcy is still under investigation. And Elizabeth still continues to be my favorite. And don't forget Mrs. Bennet. She stays committed into turning every social interaction and turns it into the utmost importance. Now also, I have no idea where this story is even going. For all I know, we might be getting more gossip in this chapter. For all I know, someone's about to just start a scandal. And for all I know, we might actually just be taking another chapter and describing Mr. Darcy's personality. Because based off of what I've read so far, that's entirely possible. But I'm here for it. So let's dive right in. Chapter 5, let's go. Okay, we are here. Chapter 5, let's jump right on into it. So within a short walk of Longbourn, which is where the Bennets live, lived a family with whom the Bennets were particularly intimate. So they had close relationships. Oh, and it's the Lucases. We've heard about them before, right? Lady Lucas and William. So Sir William Lucas had been formerly in trade in Meryton, which I'm assuming is a town, once over maybe from Longbourn, where he had made a tolerable fortune, okay, so he's made some money, and risen to the honor of knighthood by an address to the king during his mayoralty. The distinction had, perhaps, been felt too strongly. So he was honor of knighthood, so he became a knight by the king for some reason, and the public didn't really like that. Here is Sir William Lucas bowing down to the king to become knighted. Cute little random lion there. Cute. I love all these, I love all these drawings and their colors, so it's so cute. So it had given him a disgust to his business and to his residence in a small market town. So he became knighthood with the king, and the business didn't like it. The residents in the small little town didn't like it. And quitting them both, he had to quit the business and where he lived. And quitting them both, he had removed with his family to a house about a mile from Meryton, denominated from that period Lucas Lodge. Okay, so he moved away because of all the pushback from the business and such, where he could think with pleasure of his own importance and, unshackled by business, occupy himself solely in being civil to all the world. So he didn't have to, be thought about via the business. He was a little bit ways away, so he was good. He was like, okay, now I can be happy again. For, though elated by his rank, because he's now a knight, it did not render him supercilious. On the contrary, he was all attention to everybody. By nature, inoffensive, friendly, and obliging, his presentation at St. James's had made him courteous. Okay, so he's trying to come back. He's trying to bring back his reputation, basically. He's inoffensive. He's friendly, so nothing really going wrong for, Sir William. Lady Lucas was a very good kind of woman. Not too clever to be a valuable neighbor to Mrs. Bennet. So, what can Mrs. Bennet get from her? They had several children, and the eldest of them, a sensible, intelligent young woman, about 27, was Elizabeth's intimate friend. So Lady Lucas's daughter is Lizzie's bestie. Hey, okay, so we got some relationships over there. So Elizabeth's bestie is actually Lady Lucas's daughter. That the Miss Lucases and the Miss Bennets should meet to talk over a ball was absolutely necessary. They had to get together. The besties had to go and talk, right? And what other good way to talk than to have a ball? And the morning after the assembly brought the former, so that's the Miss Lucases, brought the former to Longbourn to hear and to communicate. So all the Miss Lucases came over to the Miss Bennet's residence at Longbourn to go and gossip and talk. Okay, so let's see who's gonna start. Who's gonna start off the conversation? It's Mrs. Bennet. So here we go. You began the evening well, Charlotte, said Mrs. Bennet, with civil self-command to Miss Lucas. You were Mr. Bingley's first choice. Okay, so they're still talking about the ball. Lucas's came over. Charlotte, maybe from what I assume, might be Lizzie's best friend. Charlotte is definitely on the Lucas side. So, Mrs. Bennet already jumps right to the point and is like, ooh, you began the evening well. Mr. Bingley chose you first. Tell me, what do you think about him? Because I know my daughter is basically in love with him. So Charlotte says, yes, but he seemed to like his second better. She knows. Everybody in this era is clocking everybody else. So they know where everybody else is. They know what everybody else is doing. Whew, it is cutthroat out there. So then Mrs. Bennet says, oh, you mean Jane, I suppose, because he danced with her twice. She is not afraid to just dig in there. So, to be sure, that did seem as if he admired her. Indeed, I'd rather believe he did. I heard something about it, but I hardly know what. Something about Mr. Robinson? She might know already. She might be just playing dumb to get more details. Mrs. Bennet does not play. So, we know that Mr. Bingley danced with Jane twice. And what was she saying here? She's trying to get more information out of Jane. What? Let's see. To be sure, that did seem as if he admired her. He rather did. I heard something. Oh, so she wants more information as to what Bingley said. Let's see. Does anybody know? Then Charlotte comes back and says, oh, perhaps you mean what I overheard between him and Mr. Robinson. That's what she wants to know. She wants to know what they heard about, what they were talking about. Did not I mention it to you? Mr. Robinson's asking him how he liked our Meryton assemblies, and whether he did not think there were a great many pretty women in the room, and which he thought the prettiest. And his answering immediately to the last question, oh, the eldest Miss Bennet, beyond a doubt. There cannot be two opinions on that. So Charlotte's come forward and said, Jane is it. Jane is the one. So I got receipts. You heard it from me. So then Mrs. Bennet comes back and says, upon my word. Well, that was very decided indeed. That does seem as if... but, however, it may all come to nothing, She is so secretly happy, Mrs. Bennet, that she's about to go off. She's about to go off into marrying planning mode. But she then remembered that she's talking to Charlotte, who Mr. Bingley danced with. So she kind of wants to play it down a little bit. She was about to go off, but she's like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble maybe. So I don't know. So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. So then Charlotte comes back and says, my overhearings were more to the purpose than yours, Eliza. Ooh, so we know what Mrs. Bennet's name is. It's Eliza. Interesting, said Charlotte. Mr. Darcy is not so well worth listening to as his friend, is he? Poor Eliza. To be only just tolerable. Oh, wait. Oh, this is interesting. Hold on. So Eliza is not Mrs. Bennet's name. Eliza is another short for Elizabeth. Interesting. So she's actually now going to talk about Lizzie, aka Elizabeth. So let's just say that again, right? My overhearings were more to the purpose than yours, Eliza. Mr. Darcy is not so well worth listening to as his friend, is he? Poor Eliza, to be only just tolerable. Remember from, 2 chapters ago, where they were talking Bingley and Darcy, and little Lizzie, Elizabeth, was basically hearing the whole conversation, and Darcy was like, she's whatever. She's tolerable. Yikes. So now Mrs. Bennet is gonna go off. I beg you will not put it into Lizzie's head to be vexed by his ill treatment, for he is such a disagreeable man that it would be quite a misfortune to be liked by him. Mrs. Long told me last night that he sat close to her for half an hour without once opening his lips. Once again, Mr. Darcy does not care. If he is not interested, he is not going to interest you. He's just there, chilling. But if he feels like, why talk to that person? He's not going to open his mouth. He's not even going to waste his breath. And that's what he said that's what Mrs. Bennet says, that Mrs. Long sat next to him for a half hour and he didn't even try to start conversation. Yikes. And there they are. He's just chilling. He's just sitting there on the couch. And not a word. Not a word. He's looking through his monocle. I don't know. But then Jane comes in. So Jane's in the room. Jane says, "Are you quite sure, ma'am? Is not there a little mistake?" said Jane. "I certainly saw Mr. Darcy speaking to her." Okay, we got some gossip. She said, he said, whatever said, right? What's the truth? We have no idea. This is Gossip Town. So Mrs. Bennet just says, "Aye, because she asked him at last how he liked Netherfield, and he could not help answering her. But she said he seemed very angry at being spoke to." The truth comes out. The truth comes out. Mrs. Bennet likes to, twist the narrative a little bit, and then she gets caught. So then she's like, "Oh, well, actually, he did say something. But he was very angry." But Jane comes back and says, "Miss Bingley told me," which is one of the sisters of Mr. Bingley, said Jane, "that he never speaks much unless among his intimate acquaintance. With them, he is remarkably agreeable." So this is basically one of the, the personality where if you don't know me, you're not going to know me. But once you know me, I'm like a book. I'm going to be so comfortable with you. That just seems like what, Mr. Darcy is all about. Is it true? We have no idea. Because obviously Mrs. Bennet is not going to agree with that. She said, "I do not believe a word of it, my dear. If he had been so very agreeable, he would have talked to Mrs. Long. But I can guess how it was. Everybody said that he is eat up with pride, and I dare say he has heard somehow that Mrs. Long does not keep a carriage, and had to come to the ball in a hack chaise." Oh, shoot. So, basically, she's going back off and says, this guy is horrible. He is horrible. He's got so much pride, right? He doesn't want to talk to anybody that he thinks is, more down than he is, on the society ranking in the Regency era. And how he had heard somehow that Mrs. Long doesn't even have a carriage. She had to come in with the chaise, which is basically, the horseback. That's fine. I don't see any problem with that. But Miss Lucas says, "I do not mind his not talking to Mrs. Long," said Miss Lucas, "but I wish he had danced with Eliza." Okay. She wants something to go on. I wish he had danced with Eliza. So she wants Darcy and Lizzie, to get together. But her mother says, "Another time, Lizzie," said her mother. "I would not dance with him if I were you. Do not dance with him. He is mean, and he just said you were intolerable. So, for what?" "I believe, ma'am, I may safely promise you never to dance with him." Okay, Lizzie. Lizzie's like, "I promise you, Mom, I'm not going to dance with him. After what I heard, I ain't going to be dancing with him." And then Miss Lucas comes back. Maybe it's Charlotte. He says, "His pride," said Miss Lucas, "does not offend me so much as pride often does, because there is an excuse for it. One cannot wonder that so very fine a young man, with family, fortune, everything in his favor, should think highly of himself. If I may so express it, he has a right to be proud." Miss Lucas defending Mr. Darcy, basically saying, he's got a lot going for him, so he should flaunt it. He's got money, he's got family, fortune, everything's in his favor, he's young. Flaunt it. But then Lizzie comes right back and says, "That is very true. replied Elizabeth, and I could easily forgive his pride if he had not mortified mine. Ooh, she's talking about what she overheard. How he said, that she was Yikes. So Mary comes in. Mary is one of the Bennet sisters and says, "Pride," observed Mary, who piqued herself upon the solidity of her reflections, "is a very common failing, I believe. By all that I have ever read, I am convinced that it is very common indeed." So to have pride is very common in someone, right? To a certain degree, everybody's prideful of what they got. That human nature is particularly prone to it, and that there are very few of us who do not cherish a feeling of self-complacency on the score of some quality or other, real or imaginary. Vanity and pride are different things, though the words are often used synonymously. So, what's the difference between being prideful in yourself and being vain or having vanity? That's actually a good question for discussion. Is there a difference to be prideful, but to be vain? I think there is, right? Pride, to me, you're just proud of who you are, what you're doing with your life. Vain is clearly has much more of a negative context, right? You have vanity. You want basically everybody to look at you in some type of light. So you show yourself off because you're vain. You're so vain. So let's go back to what Mary says. Mary says, "A person may be pride without being vain." And I think that's true. Pride relates more to our opinion of ourselves. Vanity is what we would have others think of us, which I think I hit that right on the head. I love that last sentence. Let's say it again. Pride relates more to our opinion of ourselves, and vanity to what we would have others think of us. I like that. So pride is more internal, what you're proud of for yourself, and vanity is external. It's what you want others to see you as. Okay. So then here comes Lucas coming in to the conversation. "Well, if I were as rich as Mr. Darcy," cried a young Lucas who came with his sisters, I should not care how proud I was. I would keep a pack of foxhounds and drink a bottle of wine every day." Because basically, Mr. Darcy has money up to wazoo. So he's like, I don't care how proud I am. I got the money. I'm getting me a pack of foxhounds and I'm going to have a bottle of wine every day. Done. Lucas, he's so simple. So then Mrs. Bennet says, "Then you would drink a great deal more than you ought," said Mrs. Bennet. "And if I were to see you at that, I should take away your bottle directly. I care about you, Lucas. So if you're drinking more than what you should, I'm going to take that bottle right out from you." And the boy protested that she should not. "You do not touch my bottle." She continued to declare that she would, and the argument ended only with the visit. So they basically went back and forth until the end of the visit. And here we have, oh, look at little Lucas. He's so cute. There's the pack of foxhounds, the dogs. And where's the bottle of wine? Ooh, a bottle of white in this case. I would do red. That's just me. But that's the end, basically, of this chapter. So a lot of conversation between a little bit of Bingley and Darcy. They're basically just going back and forth and just talking about these two men and how Jane is still number one with Bingley. And Charlotte, who is Miss Lucas's, one of the Miss Lucases, right? I think Charlotte is the bestie of Elizabeth, was saying how she really wanted Elizabeth to dance with Darcy. But Elizabeth's like, I ain't dancing with that man. No way, no how. So we'll see. This is a cliffhanger. Jane Austen, she knows how to write. And she leaves kind of like on a cliffhanger so that you want to read the next chapter. So go Janie. Okay, So if the Bennett family had a comment section, chapter 5 of Pride and Prejudice would totally be it. Because this chapter was basically just everybody reacting to other people's reactions. And honestly, I'm starting to understand why people think that this book is funny. Not because some dramatic things are happening, but because Jane Austen is absolutely ruthless. She notices everything. Every awkward conversation, every ridiculous opinion, and every person who thinks that they're smarter than what they actually are. And then she just quietly writes it down and voila, we have Pride and Prejudice. Also, I feel like we're getting a clearer picture of what the Bennett family actually is. And let's just say, some members of the family are way more self-aware than others. And I still don't know what to make of Mr. Darcy. So current status is Elizabeth is thriving, Bingley is still thriving, Darcy, it's complicated, Mrs. Bennet is loud, and I'm totally invested. And I'll see you in chapter 6. Kiki out.